and we'll put this into paragraph tags, and we'll just say something like not an image, or image type not accepted. We'll just do something like that. So now that we've outlined our basic structure, we're going to go ahead and test this now once we've created our allowed image function. So we need to create our allowed image function to ensure that the image that's been submitted through the form actually is allowed. So let's go over to images.func.php, which remember we included up here, and let's open PHP tags, and we'll start to create this function. So it's function allowed image, and this function, like I said, is going to take one parameter, which is the file name. So I'm just going to type in file there for that. Now what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be creating an array of allowed extensions. So I'm just going to create a variable allowed_ext, and that's going to equal array, and then here we're going to place the names of, or the file extensions that we're going to be accepting. So there's 4 that we're going to be accepting, well there's 3 that we're going to be accepting, but JPEG can be either written JPG or JPEG. So that's JPG, JPEG, PNG and GIF. So we're going to be allowing them 3 file extensions, with the exception of JPEG, which can be written either way. What we're then going to need to do is determine the actual file extension of the file that we fed into this function, and remember that's from the image name. So the image name will be something like screenshot.jpg. So we need to work out a way to actually grab this from the user. So what we're just going to do beforehand, so we can test this properly, is I'm going to comment out all of this here, and I'm going to go ahead and say echo, or we'll just say allowed image, and we'll type in here the file name. So we're feeding in the file name, which will be the actual representation of what the user has named the file, and then we can see what results we get from this allowed image function. So the first thing we want to do is just create a variable which is called file ext, and this is going to be obviously the the file name that we fed in. Now we'll put file there for now, and we'll just see how that works out in our browser. So let's refresh the page, and let's choose an image, and that is spellchecker.jpg. When I click watermark, nothing happens, so let's check why that might be. Oh yeah, okay. So let's just go echo file ext. So essentially this file variable here will equate to the name. Let's just change it to file name to make it just seems a bit more appropriate. So let's go ahead and just refresh. And you can see that we've got spellchecker.jpg output. Now what we want is the last, in this case 3 characters, but we're going to be using explode to explode this into an array. So let's go ahead and surround this with explode. And the first parameter we're going to explode by a full stop, or a dot. So what we're going to do now is we're going to print our file ext, and when we go ahead and refresh, you can see that it's now an array. So we've got spell checker and then JPG at the end minus the dot. So we've removed the dot, we've exploded it by the dot. So we've got the first element in the array is spell checker, and then the first element of the array, or the second element of the array, is JPEG. So what we want to do is we want to use end on this, and what that's going to do is it will not only convert this to string, it will pick out the last element of the array. So we can go back and return to echo, because we're now dealing with string data, and we're going to echo file ext. So let's go ahead and refresh, and you can see that we're just left with JPG. Now what we can do now is we can match this with the values in here to make sure that this is in the array. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be using the inArray function. So we're going to be returning either true if the file extension that we've fed into this function exists in the array, and we're going to be returning false if the file extension doesn't exist in this array. So we're going to return, and then we're going to create a condition in brackets, and this condition is going to be in array. Now the first parameter of this function will be the actual string, so we want to go ahead and use file ext, which remember at the moment is JPG, and the second is the array that we want to look in, so this is allowed_ext. Now if that equals let's say true, that means that it is in the array. So we can use a question mark for the first return, which is true, and then we use a colon for the last return, which is false. So essentially now what this reads is return, or return on the condition, if the file extension that the user's uploaded is in the allowed extension array. So if that equals true, then return true, otherwise return false. So that's essentially what we're doing here. So now what we can do is just go ahead and get rid of this function call here, and we can put this code here back in. Now here I'm just going to go ahead and echo paragraph allowed. What's going to happen here is it's going to either echo allowed if this returns true, so we can say equals true, and if it returns false, so else, we say not an image. So let's go ahead and test this out. Let's go ahead and choose a file, spellchecker.jpg. Now remember, JPG is in our array, so we when we watermark it says allowed. Let's go ahead and choose another file, or let's create, say, a txt file. Let me just create a new file, something.txt. Yeah, that was already there. So something.txt, if we go ahead and upload that, so that's placed there now, and we watermark, it says not an image or image type not accepted. So essentially now we've created a way to only allow files that exist. You might have a system like this already in place, but it's obviously good practice to go over it for those that don't. So now that we've done this, we've got that part out of the way. If the image is allowed, we want to go ahead and watermark the image. So we're going to be calling the watermark image function. Now the watermark image function that we're going to create in just a moment is going to take in two parameters. The first is the temporary location of the file, which remember we already have up here, and the second parameter is the destination that we want to place the image in. So in this case it's going to be images/uploads and then the file name. Let's just take a look at our directory structure again. We've got images here, and then it's going to be placed in uploads. So that's where we want to place our watermarked image. So let's go ahead and just type in, or let's just leave this out for now, and we'll start to create the watermark image function. So the function is called, like I said again, watermark_image. And the first thing we're going to be taking in is the file temporary location, or the file location. It doesn't really matter. You can use this to watermark images that already exist. That's the beauty of this. And we want to output this to somewhere, which is destination. So we're feeding in an image, be it an image that already exists on our web server, or a temporary location or a temporary file that's been stored before it's actually been copied. So we can go ahead and obviously feed in this file TMP value to the first parameter of the array, and then we can output it to the appropriate place, which is going to be in our uploads file folder in our images folder. So to start off the image watermark, or the watermark image function, we want to actually grab our watermark. So I'm going to say watermark equals, and we need to use image create from PNG, which is a GD library function, which basically just feeds in an image, obviously a PNG image type, so we can use it. So we're going to use image create from PNG, and the location of this image is images/watermark.png. Remember, we saw earlier in the images directory here, let's just type in a star, we've got watermark.png. So this is the file we want to be loading in. So we're loading in that file there. What we then want to do is load or grab the file type, or the image type of the image that we're loading in. So we want to go ahead and say source equals, and we're going to be using get image size. Now get image size is a bit of a misnamed function really, because it does return the size, but the last element in the array that this will return will actually be the image type, the MIME type. So let's go ahead and say file, because this is we want to get the image type of the file that we're loading in, and you'll see why in just a moment. We're going to switch between three different functions, or use three different functions depending on the type. So under here we can access the last element of this source array. We can go ahead and just print R here, just to sort of display that out to the user. Let's just go ahead and type in watermark image, and in here will be file tmp. Remember, that's the first parameter of our array, of our function, sorry. We're sort of feeding that in and then getting the image size, and the last we just leave blank for now. So let's go ahead and choose a file. We'll choose this spellchecker.jpg, click on Watermark, and you see that we get this array here. Now, like I said, the last element in this array is the MIME type, and we can use this to determine which GD function we want to use to actually create our watermarked image.